What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of Pickin Corners with Andy, where we're going to be talking hockey. We're going to talk about some of the games over the weekend. More importantly, we're going to reinforce some of the philosophies that I casually bring up throughout the course of my daily NHL videos. I just assume that everybody is always up to par, but as people are joining those videos and trying to keep up and learning some of the things that we're doing, it probably is better off that they have kind of like a, what do you call those, like those courses, like, you know, the cliff notes, or kind of just watching Game of Thrones on a marathon or something like that. But also, I've been seeing in the comments of some of my videos, where do you get this bet? Where do you get this bet? Where do you get this bet? I thought today it would be very beneficial to all you people out there to show the main hockey bets that different websites offer, because unfortunately, unlike the other major sports, hockey is a wiggly sport to put on betting sites. I feel like they're scared to offer everything up and down the board. Some sites offer some features, some offer others. Like today, I'm going to show you FanDuel offers certain types of parlays that DraftKings, Caesars doesn't. Caesars offers one that I use all the time, and I talk about it in my videos. So today I'm going to show you a couple of different websites and the bets that they offer. So you know when I'm saying, oh yeah, okay, take 2 shots for him, 2 shots for him, and the team at +1.5. Well, where the hell is that? That's not on my site. So I'm going to tell you where those are coming from. You know, it's been the first week of the season, and it's typically what I like to call, and you've heard this in my videos, fake hockey. You're seeing things that you typically are not going to see come spring. I mean, forget about spring, even around Christmas time. You're going to see teams who are probably going to miss the playoffs throw beatings to teams who have Stanley Cup aspirations, with no better instance of that than the 8-1 drubbing of the Edmonton Oilers the other night. Interestingly enough, they play again on Saturday, so I guess it was a home and home. And I have should we start with a quick theory? Well, my home and home theory typically is, if the better team is losing the first half of a home and home, they're coming home and winning the second half of a home and home. Interestingly enough, we did this with Toronto last year, I believe, when they went to Edmonton, lost. Now, granted, those are actually just 2 good teams. They went to Edmonton, lost, came home against Edmonton, and then what? I think they went down 1-0, but ended up throwing them an absolute beating. Typically, if it's a home and home, and the better team loses the first one, you can bet your ass I'm taking on that team coming home. I mean, not to mention, there's a plethora of reasons to take the Oilers. The only thing I hate about taking the Oilers, I feel like in the NHL, it's like betting on the Cowboys. Everyone loves clicking McDavid because he's got, you know, the huge star power and the name associated with him. But early in the season, fake hockey is almost everywhere. When the Colorado Avalanche won the Cup 2 years ago, I mean, they had an unbelievable team. They started off like 5 games under 500. Like the first month of the year went by, and they were not great at all. Remember, Taves was injured to open the year because he had some offseason surgery. Then he came back. They went on an unbelievable run, tore through the playoffs, never even got pushed to 7 games. And if you were to watch them in the first week, think about people drawing their conclusions early in the year. Somebody seeing a potential contender, somebody seeing that Edmonton game. Do you think Edmonton's any more or less likely to make the Cup after that one game? Absolutely not. There are so many teams that have such high ebb and flows. I remember after Game 4 last year, the crowd, you can look this up, was chanting "Fire Lindsey Ruff." The Devils crowd was chanting for them to fire their coach, who they just extended this season, and everybody's happy. But when you jump to those early conclusions, you set yourself up for some like long-term failure. Do not cement any philosophies about these teams based on what you've seen so far. A lot of experimentation happens in these early parts of the season. They try random line combinations. Sometimes it works. Something tells me you're not going to be seeing James Van Riemsdyk on the Bruins top line for too much longer. So when you have teams with any sort of changes, you know, any sort of top players brought into a team, like for example, when Columbus brought in Goudreau last year. You don't know exactly how he's going to mesh with Line A and all that stuff. That's why typically early in the season, I like focusing on teams who were mostly getting the majority of the same team back. And then there are a couple other factors here and there. But the first month of the year is what I typically like to call fake hockey. And that's what we're in the midst of now. Doesn't mean you can't find the right bets and win a bunch during the month of fake hockey. It's just know that you're getting weird versions of teams. You're getting the dough before it's fully ready and whatnot. So let me go right to what I was telling you about, talking about bets from different websites. Now, if you're a chalk better, you bet on the regular ass things, you're fine everywhere. Oh, what did people, this guy on one of my videos last year, he goes, yo, stop giving me these tricky parlay. He goes, I want those raw dog picks. So I guess if you're betting teams like by the money line or overs and unders, those are raw dog picks. So if you're doing raw dog picks, then I think you're fine wherever you are. But if you like doing those exotic bets when I can randomly smack like a plus 2,800 same game parlay, you're wondering where the hell did I pull these from? So the two main same game parlay websites when it comes to the NHL, if you're looking for props, one is Caesars, one is FanDuel. The main one that you see me reference a lot is Caesars. Now, I am going to put a little caveat out there. If you happen to be watching from Canada, you're completely fine. This doesn't apply to you. But if you're watching in the US, other than Bet365, because if you're in one of those states that has Bet365, you are golden. You can same game parlay whatever the hell you want. You can put all sorts of player props and shot props, all of them together. You are golden. So good for you if that's you. But if you're not, if you're in the multitude of other states that don't have that, you got to use Caesars. And still there are some limitations, but considerably better than the other big four. The big four to me are DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, BetMGM. Of all those websites, including the PointsBet and all those lingerers off to the side, BetRivers, the only one that allows you to take player point props and combine them with money lines and over-unders is Caesars. As you can see here on Caesars, we can take, let's say we want to take the Washington Capitals and we want to get them as a home dog, plus 1.5. So we'll take them at plus 1.5. Now, if you can, they allow you to, how do we minimize this again? You might have to, okay. So then, do a semi scroll if you can go down, because then it will, you know what? Let me see here. What can we do? Oh, great drag. Great drag. That reminds me of this scene in the movie Ghost. Ghost was like a movie from 1990. My mom loved it. Patrick Swayze dies. He doesn't know that he's dead, and then he finds out that he's dead. He's a ghost, like walking around, and he's going crazy. He finds another ghost on the subway tracks. The guy looks like Jeff Van Gundy. I call the guy Van Gundy. And if you've seen this, you're probably laughing right now. Maybe if I'm on YouTube, I could add like a little link or something like that. But he finds a guy who teaches him how to actually touch things in real life because he's a ghost. That's a weird. How can you walk on the ground, but then you can't touch something? Doesn't that? Well, I'll let a physics person describe all that. So this guy teaches him to like kick cans and do things. So he kicks a can against a dispenser of cigarettes. Oh my God, this probably sounds wild. But in like the 80s and early 90s, you can purchase cigarettes from vending machines. And he kicks it against the vending machine and he sees the cigarettes and the guy goes, oh, what I wouldn't give for a drag. And that's what I was thinking of when it just got dragged down right there. So anyway, if you want to do a Caesars same game parlay, what you do is you pick a side and then you can go down to the player props. It looks different on the phone, by the way. We're looking at, so actually scroll up to the top. we're using the web browser, but if you're on your phone, there's a tab for same game parlay. For some reason, it's not available on like the desktop version, which is weird. So if you click Sidney Crosby or something up top, now sometimes for whatever reason, when the lines are readjusting, it's not there. So look at that. Now you got Crosby to get a point. You got the Washington Capitals plus 1.5. You're looking at a same game parlay. What you just saw right there, you cannot do on FanDuel. You can't do on BetMGM. You can't do on DraftKings. This is like a Caesars only type of bet. You can, if you minimize this, you can add somebody from the other team as well. You can like add Ovechkin. You can take Ovechkin, Crosby, and then plus 1.5 for Washington. And it all, the odds are all going to depend. If you take away the Crosby point, go down to assists, it should be down there more. Put Crosby on that, which is plus 100. Now you're going to get plus 305. Now the limitations here, I don't like this, but they don't let you include more than one player. Like if you go ahead and click Erik Karlsson right above Crosby, it will error out. Yep. So they have these dinky rules where the most you can do is take one player prop from each side. But you know what? I'm not even going to complain because they're the only one who lets me even do that. However, I will tell you, I know they were trying something because towards the tail end of the season, not last year, but the year before, there was like a 2-week period, and I have the tickets to prove it, where they were letting you take as many as you wanted. People like me were probably waxing them, and they're like, take this down. Who the hell told us to do this? But that's why you Bet365 people, you really are lucky. If I was in a state that had that, I would be going down the list. Like, for example, if you're the Rangers power play or if you're Toronto's power play, just add all three of the players on that power play to get a point. You're either going to probably nail them all. So, if you're taking all three of them, you're going to get such unbelievable prices. I really think that with hockey, a lot of bets sneak through the cracks because not enough people bet it. And I know you could have that approach. Well, come on, you say not enough people bet it. I've seen things sneak through the cracks. I told you about the one person who watches my Odd Shopper videos who DM'd me. He goes, yo, they announced Vasilevsky's surgery and they still have his same win total up. Do you imagine Isaiah Pacheco had a bad knee at practice on Wednesday? The line is down within minutes. I'm talking about minutes. Hockey, you can sneak some through the cracks. And I think that is what you can do many times with these same game parlays. Let's say let's go crazy. Let's say you want to build up a big pot, and it's not even that crazy of a bet. So leave the leave the Crosby assist there. Uncheck the Ovechkin assist or the Ovechkin point. Go down, go back up to who's winning the game. Okay, so let's take. I said on my betting video I like this one to go over. So hit the over. Okay, let's take Pittsburgh to win a 4-3 game. Okay, now go back over to the point tab. Okay, go down to the assists, and let's take somebody on Washington who absolutely can hit view more. Look, you're going to start getting plus money at like really good, for really good players. Kuznetsov's a guy that's always dishing out the puck. And now you're looking at 1,200. Does this really sound that crazy? If you hit this bet slip, hit that one more time. Okay, look at this. So you have Pittsburgh to win, a game that they're favored in. The game to go over for one team, at least, that plays absolutely no defense. And then Crosby to get an assist if they're winning and going over. So think about that. If you're right about this, Pittsburgh needs to win and the game needs to go over. If it goes over, you think Crosby's not going to be involved in one of those goals? How many games where he'll have like 2 goals and no assist? He still is a distributor first. And then Kuznetsov, obviously, is, he's the center of their second line this year. But even if that wasn't him and you were choosing somebody else, even if you took somebody like John Carlson, who's running the top of their power play, you're going to plus 1,200 is an unbelievable price. When you see plus 1,200, you should look at a bet and say, oh, come on, that doesn't seem very likely at all. And to me, that's not the case with this particular bet. So on Caesars, you have the ability to combine player props with totals and money lines, but you can't add a whole bunch of other stuff. You can add a few things on your phone or on a device. There will be a same game parlay tab devoted just to that and that alone. And you can see from there what you're allowed to choose. They allow you to put goalie saves on there. Many times they include shots. Sometimes they take them down. They are a little wild. I know for a big chunk of last season, you could add player props the morning of, but they took it away after like 4 p.m. So you can make same game, but there's still 3 hours to go, but then they deactivated that feature. So that is a feature that, you actually have to stay up on. You have to stay on it and see. Sometimes it will show you errors because like they're adjusting the line. So if they're adjusting the line, then even when you enter it correctly, it will kind of error out. So just stay patient with that and you will be fine. Sometimes, on my Patreon, like everybody was saying, like, I can't really access that or everything. And then 15 minutes later, it's like, okay, it's working. Sometimes you just need to allow them to reset the line. So just, stay on top of that. Next, we're going to go to FanDuel Sportsbook. And I guess just to remind you, Caesars, if you ever want to add points or assists to totals or not, that is Caesars, unless you're in one of those states that has Bet365. FanDuel allows you to put more than one player to have shots on goal props hit. It's weird. It doesn't have the standard shots on goal. It only has it listed in alternate fashion, and it's 60-minute shots on goal bets. Who's deciding this? Who greenlit? Who said we're going to be the only one that allows shots on goal player props? But we will not be allowing them to include overtime. We will not, and we will not be allowing them to take unders. Who made that random decision? It definitely showed up at a guy's desk. And a guy goes, no, I will not accept that. I will not accept the fact that we can allow it. We're not allowing unders. It's only alternate. It's 60 minutes, and they have nowhere to go. So who are they going to complain to? So over here, let's say you want to take that same Washington Capitals bet. You want to take the Capitals like plus 1.5. You think getting them at home against Pittsburgh is you're getting you just think it's going to win. Either they're going to win by 1, lose by 1. You strongly are confident in Washington. But now you're looking at it saying, come on, man, you want me to pay minus 225? Well, why don't we put a couple of shot props on there? And you could add some at absurd prices just to juice things up. So, for example, how do we juice it up? Let's go to Ovechkin, right? His is usually 4.5 or 3.5. They said is that. So you have to hit 4 just to get it. How about we take it at 3 at a worse price? But Ovechkin, 3 shots in a game against Pittsburgh. Power play, he's ripping them. It just seems highly unlikely for him to go 2 or under in a game like that. But whatever. I'm just putting myself in your head. If you really like him, and then if I want to go 2 shots on goal for somebody on the Penguins, whether that be, let's say Gensel, he likes to shoot. He never really is hesitant. We're in the plus. We're at plus 120, and you're getting that plus 1.5. You can use all sorts of things just to randomly on. And now check it. It's gonna be right in this tab, but you can add both teams to score. So if you scroll down, it's actually just listed as both teams to score. Keep going. I'll find it. Oh, scroll up a little bit. So if this was like Carolina versus the Wild, for example, you think I wouldn't mind clicking that first go up a little more? Just a little bit right there. Yeah. First period goal in the first 5 minutes. No, you put no. Now look, these are in this game, you're getting a good price if you have 2 other teams, but these are just ways to just slice it up. Now uncheck that. But for a different game, I would use things like this. All these little now it's all matchup dependent. So if you see Carolina playing the Wild, yeah, I'm going to love checking something like that. And conversely, if Pittsburgh's playing Washington, I'm going to love to utilize these FanDuel same game parlays. And by the way, there's no advertisements here. You want to know who this is brought to you by? I don't know, Colgate, because Crest is dominating the game. I was thinking about that today. You ever, man, I don't want to give these people free advertising. I mean, I'm not even really advertising though. You ever notice that it used to be Colgate Crest? When 3D came out, I truly feel like it changed the game. It wiped out the competition. It was like WWF just eventually crushing WCW. It's a one toothpaste game now. I'm judging you if you got Colgate in the house. I am. And don't even pull out that Sensodyne stuff on me. Anyway, know the matchups that you're betting. You have to look at things like which teams seed the most shots on goal, which teams are just getting in track meets where their goalie habitually has to make 30 plus saves. Well, in those types of games, you can feel more comfortable utilizing like these FanDuel shots on goal prop parlays. But if you have two defensive teams, ones who don't give up a lot of chances, then you probably don't want to look for same game parlays in the shots on goal department. But since I do think, like, for example, I thought this game was going to go over. So this is a good one to utilize. Let's go down and see if we can see both teams to score. Yeah, look at now. Look, I mean, that's god awful. That is god awful. But if you click yes, even if it changes it a little bit, oh my God, that's bad. Not much at all. Sometimes you will get slightly better prices. For example, I would have done that with the Sharks last night. Everyone thinks that it's the Sharks at home in their opener. They're not getting shut out. I would have taken them there and it would have been slightly better. But these are just ways to just deli slice your way up. You know what? Just a little dink here, a little dink there, and it will allow you to better your odds. And it's the only site that allows this variety. Look, if you truly want to get the most out of like the hockey bets, I know some people are lazy, but you got to be on all the sports books. I use all these because all of them provide their own advantage. If you offer a type of bet that other ones aren't offering on hockey, what you think I'm not going to take it just because, oh, you know, that's very inconvenient for me. I don't give a rat's ass. You give me a way to snake, I'm going to slither. And if you're going to allow me to take FanDuel shot prop parlays only on one, then they're getting my business for that one. Also on FanDuel, during the playoffs last year, I got to check if they're still doing it. It was amazing. They offered in period, like, so during the intermission, you could take in-game shots on goal props. It would give you the next period, Sidney Crosby, and it allowed you to hedge. It allowed you to hedge live. For example, you have Sidney Crosby over 2.5 for the game. In the first period, he rips 2 on net. Now they offer a Sidney Crosby second period or rest of game player prop in the intermission, and it's at massive, like let's say it's at minus 1.5 or something like that, over 1.5 more from here on out. You take the under and you hedge it at massive plus money. Now, if you're not going to do all this stuff, I just will casually say you're leaving yourself at a disadvantage. I don't expect you to, but if you're really trying to snake them, that's how you do it. You place this here, and I remember during the playoffs on Caesars, I would do one of those player prop parlays, and the last leg of it was like I needed an over on shots on goal or something. So I rushed over to FanDuel and I hedged it with a live shots on goal under prop. Hey, look, you cannot do it. Oh, yeah, you can go wherever you go to the mall, go to your 2-for-1 Express shirts deal, go pick out your favorite ones for wherever you got to go. But if you're not going to do that stuff, that is how you maximize your bets. Don't just wait around for your last leg to hit. Snake some plus money hedging in there. Because when you can hedge and the hedge is like a plus 500, it's fantastic. You're going to be a big winner regardless. So that's something. If I'm saying things to you that you're like, of course, asshole. Some people really don't think like this. They just go through. They want those raw dog picks. I'm trying to tell them to use protection and hedge. You feel me? So now, with that being the betting lessons for the day, because that's a major thing that continually comes up, is which site offers which. And there are a few small things that DraftKings offers, but none of the great ones. And it's unfortunate because they offer the most boosts typically. We need them to step up their NHL game. We need somebody to show up at the door and say, hey, man, We see you running advertisements on all the NHL games. Well, can you at least allow us to bet some on this stuff? Don't force us to choose goal scorer. Don't make me figure out who's going to actually score on the power play. I mean, it could be any one of these shooters out here. Allow me to choose assists. Allow me to choose points as a whole. Anyway, I don't do daily videos for OddsShopper on the weekend. I tend not to do videos on the weekend other than, I do a special carve out for the NFL because, it's NFL season. That's my lone exception. Even sometimes I try to do that one on Friday nights. But what I will do is look at some of the games, and all the props aren't even really out on Friday nights, but I can give you some of my basic sniffs, and I can try to describe why I like that. So the first one, as you can see on your screen right there, are the Ottawa Senators. Classic case of your season starting on the road. You lost to a good team. You're coming home. And I'm not overvaluing the Flyers' big road victory against the last place team in the NHL from last season. I'm pretty sure they finished dead last, and then Chicago finished second to last. It was the race for Bedard, which was won by Columbus and awarded to Chicago. What an ending to the year for Chicago. We eliminate the Penguins. It's perceived that we screwed ourselves out of Bedard, only to realize that the number 2 won the lottery for Bedard. So it was a double win. You got the elimination, and you got to get Bedard after that. How fantastic for them. But Ottawa, who is one of the big 2 Eastern Conference teams where you're watching the same tape every year of everybody telling you this is going to be the year. I do want to say I think Tim Stützle is one of the best players. He is incredible. He's randomly under the radar, has superstar potential. And what I saw from him last year, highly skilled player. They have a lot of talent at forward. But as is the case with the Sabres, it was never about scoring. It's about keeping pucks out of their net. So when you look at their defense and goaltending, just like the Sabres, that is where the issues are potentially going to come from. Now, they did make that deadline deal for Jacob Chychrun. So now they do have a couple of guys there. They have quite a few. I mean, they re-signed Sanderson. Like I said, they brought in Chychrun. They have Shabbat. They actually have the core. I did wonder last year how much of that was coaching on them. But I do want you to remember, they kind of finished the year on a mini tear, and then they couldn't sustain it in like that last week. But they were racing furiously for that final playoff spot until they had a couple of I think they lost all of their defensemen towards the end of the year. And I may have a little more faith in them season long than I do than the Sabres, because they have some Giroux and whatnot in there who maybe can steer that ship in the right direction. I mean, they did bring in Tarasenko, but as far as all reports go, he looks slow and old just like he did last year. Yeah. So look at this depth chart. I mean, they got some players there. Their second line obviously did kind of take a hit with DeBrincat leaving, but the high-end talent is exactly that. They got some stars on that first line. And if you look at those defensive pairings, they kind of have the personnel. I mean, you have Shabbat, Chychrun, Jake Sanderson. The bottom pairings, other than my old guy, Travis Hamonic over there, not too much to write home about, but they should be able to muster up a good couple of wins. I remember there were many points throughout the season last year where they did play well at home. And I would imagine in this game against Philly, who under Tortorella did have a good start in October. They might be pulling. I mean, they are major contenders to be classic fake hockey winners, meaning coming out of October with a nice big winning record, only to watch that not only dwindle, but they're fighting for absolute bottom in the league by the end of the year. But you know what's interesting about the Flyers? I was looking at the other day. Like, I completely forgot they still have Couturier. He's coming back. They still have Atkinson. They had guys just miss the entire year who I completely forgot about. And when you mix and match them with some of these younger guys, it is kind of interesting. Like, everybody else had to shoulder the burden last year. They did lose Hayes, but with Konechny and Farabee, who they both showed a little something last year. Like, looking at that roster, I'm not impressed whatsoever. They did They did trade away Provorov. So, no, I don't think that team's going to be very good, but I don't doubt that they're going to have, oh my God, when Mark Stahl is on your second pairing, that is not good at all. But I don't doubt they're going to have their hardworking Tortorella wins, kind of like you saw yesterday, 2-1 in the third period, screwing us in our October dreams, which we had on a couple of those games on Thursday night. But I like Ottawa to come home, get their first win. Be a pretty bad look to go on the road, Carolina. You had 2 shorthanded goals to tie the game, and then you give up a short. Man, right away is Buffalo and Ottawa showing us exactly who we remember them to be anytime we tried getting involved with them. They're like one of those chicks, man. Like when things go right, you're like, wow, this is unbelievable. What a ride. But sometimes that ride takes you places you don't want to go. So there's one right there. This Minnesota-Toronto game, I'm not fully thrilled about this. One of my theories is that defensive confidence rolls over from game to game. Now, I'm going to apply it like it's later in the season, but just to get into good habits for all of you, I really would even apply it to this game right here. Minnesota, I remember when they played Toronto late in the season last year, when we were betting on Minnesota every single game, the true test came, wow, they're going on the road now. They're playing Toronto. Are they truly going to hold that offense down? They held them, I believe, to 1 goal, and then maybe Toronto won in overtime or a shootout. The final score of that game was 2-1. But 2 things. Number 1, defensive confidence rolls over from game to game. Why is that? Because Gustafsson is going to be on a shutout streak. So when somebody's nursing a shutout streak, which Gustafsson has, teams don't just want to blow that. They really like to build on the defensive performance put on in the last game. So all those 50-50, should I pinch or not? I always feel like they err on the side of safety when a team is going through one of those solid defensive stretches because they realize they're winning. Everything's going well. Let's not break any of the trends. Let's play relatively conservative hockey and try to win the same exact way we won the last game. They just shut down a pretty good offense in Florida, and now they have a way taller task on the road playing the Toronto Maple Leafs. But between the goaltending there and the way that Minnesota played in the game and how they played them last year, this is something that you'll be seeing as the year goes on. I'll take the under in that game. And then this Montreal Black, just a mishmash of bottom fivers. Here's another one of my theories. 2 bottom 5 teams. There will be a couple caveats like Tortorella I don't like messing with. But these are 2 teams, when you put them together, another example last year, Sharks, Canucks, your mindset, if you're a casual fan, might be like, well, 2 bad teams. Come on, how are they going to hit the over? They're bad teams. It's actually the opposite. It's full ruckus. Think about like when the Washington Commanders played the Bears on Thursday Night Football. Bad defenses, everybody going wild. It's like 5-4. These type of games are the ones I like going over on. I mean, not to mention, in Montreal's first game, I think they scored 4 against Toronto. The final score was 5-4 or something like that. But I do like the Canadians. Taylor Hall left the last game, and you know that Blackhawks team is pretty devoid of high-end talent. Montreal, they opened with a great effort. They're another one of these month 1 teams that can muster up some wins early until they realize, we're not going to, we're that many points out of it. All right. And that's when the losses just kind of start to pile up. In this game at home against Chicago, I would actually like them. This is a contender. None of the player props are available, but I guess just to get into good habits, why don't we click into that if we can? Actually, don't, because we have other ones. Actually, yes, do. So there typically would be, if you scroll down there, this is where you would find like the player points and whatnot. If you added one guy, if you wanted to add a Bedard point, or we've been killing the Bedard shots on goal, it's not going to be there because they add it late, but you add the Bedard over on shots on goal, you add somebody from, Cole Caulfield to get a point, you really start jacking up that one. Now, if you, it's going to say parlay, but if you added because we have some other stuff highlighted. But if you added that over 6.5, you take the -160, the over 6.5, Bedard over on shots on goal, Cole Caulfield, you're looking like at another one of those plus 1,100. Don't pay attention to that number on the bottom because we have other stuff highlighted. But I'm just saying, this is the kind of game you can use there. And this is the kind of game you could use on FanDuel if you wanted to combine player shots on goal. Now, I don't know how I would feel about that Minnesota-Toronto one. I don't know how. But I'll tell you what I like in that one, the no goal in the first 5 minutes. Something like that. If you have things that you like, throw that on to just juice it up a little bit. So after that Montreal game, I think we got one more for you, and that's what I teased before, and that was team gets waxed. The better team gets waxed on the road. They're coming home. They're throwing a beating. This is going to be on Edmonton's home ice, high aspirations. Don't know Ekholm's status. I do think he's important for, when they play real teams and whatnot. Look at that, over 7. That's wild. But I would take puck line, and Connor McDavid's always at like 1.5 points, something like that. In a game where they were mostly kept off the score sheet, I would expect McDavid goes over on his 3.5 shots on goal. I will ride Bouchard points to the ground anytime I think Edmonton is going to win. Best power play in the history of hockey once they ran it, through that main unit towards the end of the year. They even, in the worst performance ever, I still think they got 1 power play goal last game. So I would go with, a variety of Edmonton bets. Now, if you want to know what bets I'm going to make, I do have my Patreon where there's a community of us from last season and whatnot. Yeah, it costs you a little bit. You want to know why? Because this stuff costs me a little bit. It takes a lot of my time. I realize I have no free time ever, not complaining, just justifying. So if you want to see my full allotment of picks for the weekend, that's on my Patreon. I'll include a link in the description of this video, or you can just remember patreon.com/Andy Francess. If you're here from the Patreon, just enjoying this video, you will be seeing these picks along with other ones on Saturday and Sunday because I don't do videos. I need some time off, but definitely check that out. Also, I just want to remind everyone, if you go to andyfrancis.com, you want any of my Sniff Drip, some of the clothes that I created, some of the shirts that I created while we were having a good time last year, those are still available. But that is kind of what I have for you. Make sure that you're subscribed here because this is the only place that you're going to find this show. I'm not making social media accounts. I don't have enough time to do all that stuff. So you're just going to see Pickin Corners with Andy here. Who knows? This gets big enough. I promise you, Roenick will be begging me to do the show that he originally was supposed to do. But that's going to depend on you guys. Thank you guys for joining me here for this week 2 episode. Hopefully you got some information. I clarified some things in regards to what kind of bets you can find and where. And as always, good luck to you. Better luck to me. Yeah, you let me know if you need any of those shirts right there. All right, guys, I will be back with you next Friday night. Enjoy your weekend. And if you like those NFL picks, I will have that available on Odds Shopper channel. Take it easy, everyone. Talk to you